Hey guys, we are here at the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth, but you're watching this on the week of the Solheim Cup. I just had an amazing conversation with Dame Laura Davies, who has had 87 professional wins. It's her third time vice-captaining for the Solheim Cup, and she's made 12 appearances herself and a four-time major champion. We had an awesome discussion and just kind of crept in a few insights on what the week could be like, the responsibilities of being a vice-captain too. She's a legend, really enjoyed it, and I think you're going to enjoy this conversation too. Laura, it's great to have you on our channel, so thank you so much for giving up your time. I know I was a little bit late, but you've been very patient with me.
Your timekeeping is horrific.
You've got quite the week coming up as vice-captain. You know, first of all, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I think just getting in the team room on Monday, and everyone will be arriving, everyone's excited. I've been to enough of them now. This will be my 15th one I've been involved in. And it's just that everyone gets in the team room and you're just looking around and expecting, hoping what's going to come for the week ahead, and then obviously Tuesday a little bit of practice, and that's when I'll be out watching probably Georgia or Charlie. I normally stick with the English girls, and all the helpers and vice captains, they have their groups, so it just builds up until Friday, and that's when I don't do anything. I just sit back and watch the golf, and it's all down to Suzanne to worry about everything.
I was going to ask you about the role and the responsibilities of a vice captain, because you've got one captain and three vice captains, right? So what is your responsibility, but also generically as a vice captain, what do you actually end up doing?
Just help wherever help is needed, and if any of the players that aren't playing well, possibly just go out there and watch them and tell them how good they are and try and bring their spirits up. It's nothing specific, if I'm honest. It's just lots of little things that hopefully you're adding to it, but it's all about Suzanne and the players, really. We're there just to have fun, the way I've always seen it. And Suzanne's going to be a very strong captain like Beanie, slightly different. I'd say they've got lots of similarities, but you know, we're there just to support Suzanne. And if Suzanne needs us to go somewhere, you go and do it. And but she's got a good group of helpers. Maria Kjorth's coming over, and Helen Dobson, people like that. So it's a really good backroom team. It's not just the three vice captains. It's really only two, because to be fair, Anna's playing, and you know, she'll have a lot of input, but she won't be at all the meetings, because obviously she'll be concentrating on her golf. That's the most important thing.
Well, it's my first time ever being at Solheim Cup. You've obviously had you've played 12 times, and this is your third time being a vice captain. For those, you know, watching at home who have never been to the event before, how can you describe the atmosphere of a Solheim Cup week?
Well, for the players, it's very nerve-wracking on that first tee, and then as soon as you got your tee shot away, and in foursomes, I always used to make my partner hit the tee shot. I hate first tees, always hated the Solheim Cup first tee, so my partner in foursomes would always have to hit. And once you're out there, it's just good fun. It's the expectation overnight. You worry about getting off and running, and once you're out there, if you're in Europe, you've got the galleries behind you, and it's so much fun. They just sweep you along on a wave of support. And when you're actually in America, it's very difficult, because most of the cheers, 9 times out of 10, are not going to be for your team or you. And so it's difficult. But ultimately, if you come away from a Solheim Cup and you haven't enjoyed it, that's a shame. Whether you win or lose, you know, there can only be one winner. It's so closely matched normally. And the last two have gone down to the last group. It's incredible. Hopefully that'll happen again. But having said that, Suzanne would probably like a nice big victory.
Speaking of which, I actually read somewhere online, which could be a very dangerous thing, that, you know, the first Solheim Cup was in 1990, and you did play in the very first one. And speaking of first tee nerves, there's a bit of a story there, isn't there?
Well, me and Ali Nicholas and we were playing in the first match, and I'd asked Ali, obviously, to hit the first tee shot, as is my cowardly way out. I used to do it. And anyway, Pat Bradley is on the tee already, and Ali said, oh my God, because they're all Hall of Famers. You've got to remember, these players we're up against in 1990, they're already Hall of Fame players. They're that good. And we're just, you know, I was 5 years into my career. Ali was 6 years into her career. And Pat said, oh, Pat Bradley's over there. And I said, and she says to me, and I went back to walking onto there, and she said, well, don't look around now, Nancy Lopez is just coming up. And you know, you turn around and your heart sinks. You've got Pat Bradley and Nancy Lopez against you in your first Solheim Cup. Amazingly, we won the match. I think we won 2-1. Probably the proudest victory I've ever had, because Nancy was always my favourite. Pat Bradley, lovely lady, you know, great player, and to beat them was something quite special, to be honest.
And speaking of nerves, in the team of 12, you've got 3 rookies as well. You know, what's the best kind of advice that you could give rookies? Because they're all established players. They've already accomplished so much.
That's the thing. In the old days, rookie was a real problem, because it was built up to be this thing. But a lot of these girls and guys that come to Ryder Cups and Solheim Cups they've played in college, they've been on teams, they've been under pressure, team pressure. So although they've not experienced that kind of the very top level of professional women's golf, they're kind of, you wouldn't say to them, don't be, because they look at you as if to say, why would I be nervous? I'm really good, and I'm going to go and try and win a point for the team. So it's a strange thing, the rookies nowadays. I think, I mean, we've got Lynn and Starkey. She's going to be, you know, she's going to be brilliant. They're going to be a brilliant team together. Hopefully they'll play foursomes and or four balls together. And they're two rookies, but you wouldn't be scared putting them out.
And looking back, I guess, what's your kind of fondest memory playing in the Solheim Cup over the years?
I think winning at Dalmahoy, because you got to remember again, that was 92. That was the very second one. The first one we got beaten quite easily, as was expected, and then they expected to come over and do it again, and we beat them. And to this day, I'd say that's one of the biggest sporting upsets, because TV wasn't massive. I mean, it was on TV. It wasn't massive. I think if you put that group of 10 players against their group, at that time it was 10 players, and there was no comparison. We had no chance of beating them, and we did. So I think when Katrin Nielsmark held the winning putt on 16th green, the celebrations were incredible, and it was shock as much as anything.
Yeah, and I guess because you've played so many, you've also won a lot of points and matches over the years as well. You know, in reflection, looking back to what it was like in regards to the atmosphere, the crowds, maybe the media attention as well, how much has it evolved really over the years to what it is now?
You wouldn't recognise it. Lake Nono, which was 1990, the first one, there might have been a couple of hundred people walking around watching, and that was surprising in itself, because, you know, the LPGA was well established at that point, but no one really. The Ryder Cup was going pretty well in the early 90s, but it wasn't what it is today, and certainly it was. I'm not going to say it wasn't anything, but it was just a low-key thing, and we got beaten so easily that I think it was kind of overlooked. Now, you know, there were hundreds of thousands of people at in Detroit last year. Not Detroit, where were we? Toledo. And the galleries were enormous, and they're out there watching women's golf, and it just shows the level it's gone to now. There's no comparison, and the level of play as well. Some of the shots these girls are pulling out under the ultimate pressure, it's extraordinary stuff.
And what's the kind of behind the scenes of being a vice, if not a captain? Because, you know, you've all got earpieces. What do you hear? What are you saying to each other? You know, are you allowed to tell us any scoop on that?
Well, you wouldn't want it to be live on TV, put it that way. You know, there's a lot of, well, put it this way, you're rooting for your team, and you're not necessarily rooting for their team, and you'll have some, you know, quite colourful language at times when things aren't quite going our way.
Surely not you.
Oh, I know, never. Yeah, it's just fun, and it's so nice to be out there. I mean, at the start of the week for the players is really hard. You know, you get there, it's exciting on the Monday, Tuesday the work starts, and by the time you get to the first tee on Friday, you've been to banquet dinners, you've done photo calls, you've done all the press, you've done the TV inserts that they're going to. So it's a very tiring week before you hit your first shot in anger. But overall, it's just, the whole thing is just great fun for the players, and like I said, hopefully, whether you win or lose, they all leave having had a great week, because I'll be honest, I've never not had a fun week at the Solheim Cup, and in the 12 I played, we won 4, lost 8, so that just tells you how much fun it is.
Well, I know when I spoke to Paul McGinley when he was the captain of the Ryder Cup, he was saying, you know, there's a certain pin here, all the players are doing this, so he sent a message saying that something else has got to be done, so you could be quite tactical and set up, especially when you're playing at home, can't you? You know, how much communication do you have during the game, or do you personally stand back?
Well, we're not allowed to say anything, it's only the captain. Okay. Only the captain can say anything, so Suzanne can't be everywhere. So if something was going on, say my group, and they were all coming up short with a 6-iron, the first few groups, say, I could then radio Suzanne, say, Suzanne, you need to get out to the 4th, because everyone's coming up short. And Suzanne would have to get there and relay. So we're allowed to relay information to her, but I couldn't go up to Charlie, for instance, not that Charlie would listen anyway, and say everyone's coming up short. She'd say, well, I'll give it a bit extra. You know, so, but that's the sort of thing that we can help with indirectly, but we certainly could never say anything directly to any of the players, because obviously that's not our role.
Do you ever feel like a spy, and do you have any code words?
No code words yet, but
just say it as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone on because you've got to remember, on the radio, you've probably got upwards of 20 people, so it's utter chaos. You've got everyone talking, and you're hearing things, and things are cutting out. So it is a little bit chaotic. That's why the group I'm normally with Georgia or Charlie. I'm with their groups, so you try and concentrate on what's happening there, rather than get too worked up about what's happening. In the singles it's different because the tournament's on the line and then you really start listening into what's happening.
That's really amazing. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you out there as well.
Absolutely,
So,
I think you'll love it, Inci.
I can't wait. Well, thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video as well. And until next time, we'll see you then.